So it's now my pleasure to introduce Danny Cole, former Royal Marine, and he's going to share his lived experience of suffering from his own mental health issues and traumas. So, as I say, Danny's a former Royal Marine Sergeant. He saw service on operational tours to Afghanistan and Iraq, as well as counter-piracy in the Caribbean and the west coast of Africa. After Danny's last tour in Afghanistan, which was Op Herrick 14, he came home with a firm belief that all was good in the world. However, after serving for 21 years, he was medically discharged in November 22 with PTSD and severe depression. So over now to Danny to tell his inspiring story.
Morning all. Oh, yeah, you can hear me. I was about to ask. Right. Sirs, moms, ladies, gents, and any other person, whatever you call yourselves, the world's moving too fast and I can't keep up with it, so I don't want to cause offence to anyone, so just humans, thanks for being here. I just want to take a quick second just to, you're all heroes, but to say a special thank you to the blue light community. I genuinely believe that these are unsung heroes in these times that we're going through. They do it day in, day out. As soldiers and military and that, we go on tours, we do bad things for a few months and we come back, but the blue light community, they turn up, help people, sometimes bad situations with horrific things, and that's their day every day and they keep going. So a massive thank you to you guys, whoever you are. Bit of a warning. So I don't have a filter. This is something you guys in the military will find becoming a civvy. There's loads of little things that you can get away with saying when we're in the military, but you can't do that later on with civvies because they get offended. So I've got no filter and I don't mean to offend anyone, and if I do, I'm sorry. So I'm going to discuss something that's a bit of a taboo subject. I'm going to talk about suicide. Now, I know that a lot of people, it happens more and more these days, and people probably know somebody, directly or indirectly, someone who's passed away or committed suicide. So it can be disturbing to people, and if at any point you do feel a bit uncomfortable, I don't mind just getting up and just leaving, and there's no shame in it, because it's not exactly a nice subject to talk about. So that's all out the way. Right, I'll tell you who I am. I'll give you an insight into who I am. So some of you are probably thinking, who's this guy stood up there, like a fat ex-SBS sort of Ant Middleton guy, and he speaks funny? Well, that's because I live above Bristol. There's a whole place higher than Bristol in the north. It's like Game of Thrones. It's beyond the wall. So, yeah, I come from a place called Liverpool. As a child, I was completely wild, and I just couldn't fit in with my family. They were all quite educated, believe it or not, being Scousers, but they was quite educated and I wasn't. I was running wild and out of control. So it was quite hard to fit in, and that's been my life. I've always been the square peg round hole. I've done my best, but I have been a bit wild. So I'll go through a few things. So when I was a child, absolutely hated school, but all I ever wanted to do was be a soldier. That was my dream. I didn't want to be a footballer, a millionaire, nothing like that. I just wanted to be a soldier. I wanted the adventure. Being a soldier to me was like being Peter Pan. You never had to really take on responsibilities. You just carry on being a kid. It's like an extension of university, and you can get away with lots of things. So all I ever wanted to do was be a soldier, and yeah, I did want to go to war and experience what it was really like to be put in that situation. I was always a bit of a class clown. I was a risk taker, always been a risk taker. And I always had a motto of do it for the dit. And in civvy speak, I just basically thought, there's going to be a good story behind this. So I put myself in weird and wonderful situations, and that often found me in a bit of trouble. So I did have a bit of a colourful career. So yeah, joined the Marines straight from school. I've been around the world, and like I said, I was always looking for that weird moment where there was an opportunity and going, oh yeah, there's going to be a good story at this, and knowing necessarily it didn't always end well. So I did end up in some weird and wonderful places. Like, I woke up with a homeless guy sharing a box in the middle of Plymouth next to Toys R Us at 10:30 in the morning. I was late for work, and don't remember sharing this box with the homeless guy. And then I've done things from that to drinking tequila in Tijuana after I was told we couldn't go there, but it was a good experience. I've woke up from the nights before all around the world with new tattoos that I didn't have when I went to sleep or couldn't remember having. I've woke up in the police hotel a few times. And yeah, I've woke up with people that I don't even remember going to bed with. So yeah, not always great. I've jumped out of planes. I jumped off an aircraft carrier for a bet once, which gave me 6 months of pot wash, which that was like the longest record on pot wash. I've scuba dived, I've bungee jumped. I met the Queen, which was amazing because all I had in my head was Miss Wilson back in school saying, "You'll never amount to nothing." And then I was meeting the Queen, so that was a big thing. I felt like I made it in life. I've swam with sharks, I've sat with tigers, I rode an elephant once. Been to Thailand a few times, but they're whole other stories that we're not going to go into today. Yeah, so I got my dream and I went to war. I got shot back at a few people. I've been in 2 IED strikes, luckily to walk away from them, and my friends walked away from it too. And I was also used as a human shield once for my commanding officer, which was one of my proudest moments ever, even though it was totally petrifying. But yeah, I was pretty proud of that. I've climbed in Switzerland, done drug busting in Caribbean, ice breaking in Norway. I've snowboarded in France. I was given awards by the Special Forces Director, which was another achievement. So Miss Wilson said I wouldn't achieve nothing in life. Well, I did. But I became a dad, which wasn't planned, but I became a dad, and it's something that's my biggest achievement in life that I was really proud of. So I've got a beautiful daughter, and I'm engaged to a gorgeous woman. I've got a best friend who's a dog called Louis. I've got a nice car, I've got 2 motorbikes, and a nice house. And you're probably all sitting there thinking, why are you telling us all this and like trying to make yourself sound awesome? Well, yeah, I have done a lot of things in my life. I have seen a lot of things. I've done some amazing things, and I've got some good stories behind it. But there's 2 sides to every story, and the dark side is what happened next. Excuse me. Right. So, yeah, like I said, there's 2 sides to every story. It wasn't always great. I did get my dream and I went to war, and I came home, and like the other speaker said, I thought I was okay. I felt lucky. There was guys who didn't come back. There was people who came back missing body parts and stuff. So I felt quite lucky. So, as Ernest Shackleton once said, if you're going to talk about hell, it helps if you've been there. So I'm going to tell you what happened to me. So like I said, I came home, everything was fine, carried on with my life. And then 2 years later, I was sat at home and I was having my tea. And it came on the news that the Manchester bombings had happened. And out of nowhere, for no reason whatsoever, I started crying. And I was like, why am I crying? I don't cry. And my ex-partner came in at the time and was like, why are you crying? I was like, there's been a bombing in Manchester. And she was like, but why does that affect you? I was like, I don't know. And then that night I went to bed, and I think that was the first night I started having night terrors and flashbacks, and it went from bad to worse, and it did it very rapidly. The night terrors got worse, the screams got worse each night. I was waking my family up, and my ex just couldn't stand me like wetting the bed. I was sweating in the bed. Sometimes I didn't know whether it was sweat or whether I'd wet the bed. The screams were waking her up, and she had work the next day, as she'd always tell me, even though I didn't have a choice in these dreams. I didn't want to have them. So then I became an insomniac. I was actually scared to go to sleep anymore because of the dreams. I didn't want to go through them, so I just started staying awake for as long as I can. And then, obviously, because I wasn't sleeping, it had an effect on me in other ways. I started having anger outbursts, and yeah, I was pretty angry, uncontrollable, and go flash to bang in no time at all. So my relationship broke down, and the mother of my daughter, we split up. She couldn't handle me, I couldn't handle her, but I wasn't good to be around. I started withdrawing, keeping myself to myself, not like going to see the friends that I'd usually be around and stuff like that. Work took over. I didn't realise at the time, but I just absorbed into work, and I wouldn't go home. I'd started sleeping in my office and things like that, and that was because it was a distraction to me and a way of not dealing with my problems. If I was focused on work, I wasn't hearing the screams in my mind and stuff like that. And yeah, I started to realise triggers. So you obviously might have heard about classic where you come back from a war zone and someone slams a car door and the people hit the deck and stuff, or drop a bowling ball and people hit the deck and that. I didn't really suffer as much with that, but what mine was high-pitched noises, screams, babies, kids laughing, things like that. I had to talk to my daughter about it and ask her like not to laugh too loud, because I'd just start having a wobble, and it was just not a nice way to live. I got hyper-vigilant. I was looking at everything all the time, picking up on everyone around me, how they were moving and stuff. And then my confidence went, and it was replaced by anxiety, and I'd never had that before. And before this happened to me, I was quite naive to mental health. Like now it's a lot more open and spoken about, but like back then it wasn't. And I didn't know what I was suffering with. I hadn't gone to ask for any help or anything like that, and I didn't understand anxiety. I seen it as a weakness, and I couldn't understand why my body was doing this, why I couldn't be happy and things. That's the thing with depression and PTSD. It's not a choice. It's like it's an illness that you want to be happy, but you just can't. And then every now and again you'll laugh at something and you feel guilty that you actually smiled for a minute, and it's just really strange. So yeah, I was in a bit of denial. I was in denial for a long time, and then I thought I was hiding it. Well, I was doing my best to hide it from the sergeant major. Didn't want to cause no trouble, nothing like that. So I just kept working and working, but other people seen it, and there was an incident at work, and the sergeant major came to talk to me privately, and I remember watching how awkward he felt about this conversation he wanted to have with me. And he said, look, people have noticed, the colonel's noticed, you're not yourself, you haven't been for a while. Is the stuff we need to know here? So I broke down and started crying to my sergeant major. I never felt so small, so weak in my life. Like, I looked up to my sergeant major, and straight away he got me the help I needed. He sent me off to the mental health team. They did an assessment, and a doctor said to me, oh, you've got PTSD and you're severely depressed. And I remember looking at him and I was like, no, how can I have PTSD? You know, I've been back from war for 2 years or whatever. And he said to me, it can happen anytime. It can just turn on. You know, it just takes something to trigger you. And my trigger was the Manchester bombings. And I don't know why, but that day something switched with me. So yeah, the doctors diagnosed me with it, but I was still in denial, and I was like, I don't think he's right here. So then they started with medication, and like, it's not like the military where, you know, you get your uniform, one size fits all, make you fit. I didn't realize that medication's tailored to each person, and you have to go through a whole variety of them to find the right ones for you. And the side effects of some of them are horrendous. Like, my legs would go, I'd collapse, I couldn't see straight, and I get a lot of memory loss now. There's like so much I can't remember. And these are just the side effects that you have to go through to find the right medication. And each time you start a new tablet, it takes a while to kick in, and then it doesn't work. So then you've got to wean yourself off, start another tablet, new side effects, and it's a hard circle. And I didn't buy into the process. I was like, I haven't got PTSD. I just feel a little bit down. I can sort this out in my head. And I was so wrong. So I dealt with this since 2017. I'd been to see various doctors, tried different techniques and stuff, and never really found like it was helping me. So I faked it to make it, and I convinced the doctor I was getting better. I only had to see him once a week. So I started just putting on a brave smile and telling him what he wanted to hear, because I wanted to get drafted. And in the end, it worked, and I got drafted. And I thought, well, new draft, new start, new beginning. You know, this is a good thing. And I was based down in Poole, so not too far away from here. I was with the SBS, and it's a fast-paced job, as you can imagine. Special Forces, they don't take a day off. It's constant go. So I was put in a position where I had a troop of 55 blokes providing support all around the world, and I was faking it to make it. I was the new guy. I had to prove myself, and I thought I was doing okay, and no time at all I had a breakdown. My ex-girlfriend, she was doing everything she can to make my life as hard. So I was fighting two wars. On one side, I had normal reality of normal life, and an ex-girlfriend who wanted to destroy my life and make things difficult. So it's hard enough dealing with that on a daily basis, especially when there's kids involved and stuff. And then at night time, I had to deal with myself, and the silence was a killer. I was always scared when the day started to wind down and people started to go out of the office, and then I was on my own, and the noises in my head, the screams and things like that, just tormented me, and it was constant. So pretty quickly, the sergeant major picked up something wasn't right with his new sergeant, and he set up a phone call for me, and I was walking down the road one day, and my phone went, and it was a number I didn't recognise, and this lady was on the end of the phone. This lady's in that room now. She turned up this morning. Her name's Stacey. She's at the back there, and she was a welfare officer, and she spoke to me. I didn't know her at the time. She was just a voice, and for some reason I felt comfortable to open up, and she had to ask me a really hard question. And she said to me, like, I'm going to ask you something really difficult. She said, but can you be honest? She said, do you ever have tendencies to hurt yourself? And I broke down and said, yeah. And she asked me if I had a plan to hurt myself. Now, I'd been battling this for years, on and off, and doing the best I could. I was exhausted. I was absolutely drained. And I just started feeling like, what's the point in carrying on? And So once I'd told Stacey the truth, within hours, I was in front of a whole medical board. Like the top psychiatrist in the Navy was on a webcam to me and asking me all these questions and things. And I had to open up and tell them, yeah, I've got a plan, and this is what I'm planning on doing. It was close to Christmas, and they were worried because they didn't want to send me on leave because they thought he's going to do this on leave. So I had to beg and beg and beg and explain to them, I promise I won't kill myself while I'm on leave. You know, I want one last Christmas with my family. I want to say goodbye to them. I'd planned it all out, and they wouldn't know. I'd just act normal, have a Christmas with my daughter and my mum and that. I'd come back to work, and then I'd do it in the new year. So they put me on a watch list, and in the end they agreed to let me go home for Christmas leave. And I had to speak to the doctor every day. Every morning he'd phone me at 9 o'clock, and he said, if you miss one of these phone calls, we'll have the police come round and pick you up and check on you. I had to have somebody with me all the time, so my girlfriend, my best mate, you know, I was babysat for the whole of Christmas. Come back to work, and the first question I got was, right, have you changed your mind? And I was honest and said, no, I've said my goodbyes, and I was ready to go. And I'll never forget the chief psychiatrist said to me, I deal with people like you all the time who are not having a good time in life. He said, but you are like a suicide bomber. And I was sort of like thrown back by it. And I went, what do you mean? And he explained, you know, with a suicide bomber, they know at the end they're going to blow themselves up and kill themselves and that. But like when they get the notice that, okay, right, we've got a task for you, this is going to be it. You know, at first they're filled with fear, and then the fear dies down, and the planning and the prep, they get all that done, and then they accept what's going to happen, and they're ready to go. And he said, that's exactly where you're at. You've said your goodbyes, you've done your planning, you've done your prep, and I'm really worried about you. So they wanted to section me, and I was against it, completely against it. But Stacey had arranged for me to live in a welfare house and move my family down. And it was hard. It was a really hard decision for me because I was so set on what I was going to do. And I know a lot of people probably can't understand me standing here saying this to you, that I planned how I was going to end my own life, right down to every detail. And I'd said my goodbyes, but because of the work Stacey had put in, I felt like I was doing a disservice. And it was the hardest thing to say, okay, I'll give you 6 months. And it was non-negotiable. I just said to them, this is all I'm giving you, is 6 months. I'll do anything you want. You ask me to stand on one leg, I'll do it if you think it's going to help me. But after 6 months, it's not about curing me. It's just give me the reason to wake up in the morning and not dread the day. Getting up in the morning was such a hard task to get yourself ready and that. It was just draining. So to say to them, I'll give you 6 months, was massive to me. So they gave me a new doctor, and I did everything I could, did everything he asked me to do. But like no like offense to him, but he wasn't the right doctor for me. Now, I hope none of you have to experience mental health yourselves, but if you ever do, one of the biggest things is it's your life that you're putting in somebody else's hands. You need to make sure you've got that right person to back you up and guide you. So the next 6 months went from bad to worse. I thought they couldn't get worse, but they did. And then it got to May. So this all happened in January, and it got to May. So the clock was ticking, and we were counting down. I had 2 weeks left until my 6 month point, and the doc hadn't helped me. The medication was killing me. So I asked Stacey to come into a meeting with the doctor, and I needed a witness to both of them to say, like, this is what I'm going to do, right? I gave you the chance. Now just let me do what I want to do, and let me go off and do it. You've got 2 weeks to sort me out. You've had 5.5 months up to now, and things have got worse. So I couldn't see a way out. I couldn't see an end. I couldn't see a light. So that was a hard thing for Stacey to be in there. And then the doc didn't really seem to take it in, what I was saying. And it was just like a pat on the back, oh, come on, mate, cheer up. You know, it'll get better. And when you've got somebody who's dealing with issues like that, it's one of the worst things you can say to them. You know, just cheer up. People who are suffering with mental health, they want to be happy. It's not a choice. So, yeah, just if you ever do have to deal with something like that, think of a way to approach it. Just don't give them a pat on the shoulder and say, cheer up, because it's not a choice. So, anyway, I went home that weekend, and I still kept myself to having 2 weeks until my deadline that I had in my head. But Stacey was worried about me that weekend, and like, we'd built up such a good relationship between us. You know, we'd go out paddleboarding and everything, and I'd open up to her, and she'd always ask me how I was feeling and was it getting better, and it wasn't. I wanted it to, but it just wasn't. But she became like one of my best friends and somebody I could rely on. And she went outside of her boundaries, like what she's supposed to do. Like, she would actually check up on me, but, you know, really it should have been just a meeting. But she went above and beyond to look after me. So she started to know who I was. And I went home that weekend. It was my birthday weekend, but it hadn't sat well with her, and she had a gut feeling something wasn't right. Now, when I went home that weekend, it was one of the worst weekends I've ever had. There was a whole problem with my ex-girlfriend, my kid, police involvement, stuff like that. It was horrendous, couldn't got worse. So I confronted my ex, and her advice to me was, why don't you just go and kill yourself? Just get it over and done with. We'll be better off without you. I was already thinking that way anyway. So I just decided, what's the point in waiting for 2 weeks? I was sat in my van doing some work, and the kids had finished school. And obviously, like I said, I had triggers, like kids' noises, laughter and that. And all of a sudden, once the kids finished school, it was like I had speakers strapped to the side of my head. The screams in my head were just deafening, and out of nowhere, it was like there was a clear voice that just went, let's just do it now. And it wasn't the plan I had, but I felt like I couldn't do that 2 weeks. So I went in the house, I locked the door, didn't tell anyone what I was doing, and I was convinced, yeah, this is fine, no one's going to get involved, and it's better for everybody this way. So I got some sleeping tablets, I got myself a pint of Strongbow, and I got in the bath. I got a dictaphone, and I left a message to my best friends, to my family, to my daughter, and begged her to forgive me, because I knew she couldn't understand what was happening. I gave instructions on how I wanted my funeral and all that. And then I took a Stanley knife and opened my arms up. And I've got like a 10-inch scar down my forearm. I remember the blood just come squirting out my arm. I remember looking at my window and thinking, this is the last time I'll see the sky. You have the weirdest things go through your head. Like, at one point, I think I thought, I'm never going to taste the McDonald's again. But, yeah, so it was a hard thing to leave that dictaphone message. I closed my eyes, and as far as I know, I was never going to wake up again. But out of nowhere, I was in and out of consciousness. Next thing I know, my best friend has got hold of me, trying to pull me out of a bath, screaming at me, um, blood everywhere, and my neighbour was there. I heard my neighbour's voice. My neighbour was trying to get hold of the paramedics, but they were at another incident and they couldn't send one. And apparently she was saying, this lad's going to die. I'm a nurse, and this lad's going to die. I need a paramedic. But the weird thing was, nobody knew what I was doing. I hadn't told anybody I was going in, shutting the door. Stacey tried to phone me, and she couldn't get through. My best friend had tried to phone me, couldn't get through, and they both had gut instincts. Now, I don't know if you believe in God or not, but it was like divine intervention. I was not meant to die that day. So, yeah, all of a sudden, I've gone unconscious, and then I've woke up, and the police are there. And obviously, being a Scouser and there's a copper in my house, that was a bit of an eye-opener. But it turned out that Stacey had been on the phone trying to get somebody, because I was on this watch list, to come and check on me, and they couldn't get paramedics there. So they triangulated my phone, and they knew I was in my house. My mate had already kicked through my door just on a hunch. He'd run out of work, everything. Just a feeling that it wasn't right. I don't know how or why that happened, but he got there just in time. And through what Stacey did for me, the police, armed response team turned up, their paramedics. They turned up and they started working on me. And I remember vaguely a copper holding a tourniquet in front of my face, and he said, "This is going to hurt." And I begged him, but at this point I'd lost that much blood. It was hard for me to talk. My mouth wasn't moving the way it should. My hands had started to curl up like a spider. Things were just shutting down and that. But I begged this copper just to let me go. And I'll never forget, the guy just looked at me straight in the face and said, "We look after our own." And that was the last I remembered. Then I just drifted off. But he'd put a tourniquet on me. He'd put stuff in my arm, like Celox or whatever, to try and stop the bleeding. They had to go through my foot to get anything into me because all my veins had collapsed and things. So next thing I know, I've woke up, and I woke up in a psychiatric unit. I had a cast on my arm, and it was so weird because I'd never planned on waking back up, so I didn't know if I died and I was in heaven. But I looked across, and there was a guy, and it's no joke, if you've ever seen that film, The Green Mile, John Coffey was sat in the room with me, the big black guy, and I looked at this guy and I said, "Am I dead?" And he went, "No, brother." He went, "You were very, very close." He went, "God hasn't finished with you yet." And like at that moment, I didn't know what to feel. I was embarrassed. You know, I tried to take my own life and I hadn't succeeded in that. And, you know, I was confused. Like, how did I end up getting saved? I was so sure I was going to be successful. And I was angry at my best mate because when I found out what had happened and what he'd done and that. And then I had guilt. I was an only child, and like my mum had just battled with cancer, and all she wanted to do was survive, and all I wanted to do was die. So I was petrified seeing my mum, having to look into her eyes and apologise that I couldn't do it no more. So after that, I got let out that psychiatric unit in Chester and ended up going down to come back down to Poole, and they sectioned me, and I was sectioned for 7 weeks in Basingstoke. Now that was an eye-opener. I thought I'd seen it all from ward and things like that, but being in a psychiatric unit and seeing other people who were really suffering in other ways with mental health was a real eye-opener. Going to group therapy sessions every day, explaining my problems and listening to their problems, and you know, the mad things like a woman who every single morning would just start screaming at the breakfast table because she thought the porridge was going to kill her, and it freaked me out every day. And it didn't help that she was screaming, like it was sending my head all over the place. But I started to realize, like, wow, how delicate the brain is, but also how strong it can be if it's in the right way. But it's such a fine line between it going wrong for people. So yeah, I got fascinated by it, but one thing I learned while I was in there was that I needed to change. I realized that I was no good at suicide, so give up on that idea. Like, I'm just gonna stick around or give life a shot. But if I'm gonna give life a shot, I need to do things differently. I need to play by my own rules, and I also really need to buy into what the doctors are saying and do everything they want me to do. So I did buy into it 100%, gave it a shot, and it took a long time and a lot of awkwardness. It's not easy to go into a room and bare it all to a stranger and say this happened to me and that happened to me and I suffer from this and that, and expect them to be able to tell you how to make it right. But the way I thought about it is the brain's like a computer. I need to get rewired, and this doctor's going to help me. And it was hard, it wasn't easy, but he did his job. He was the right doctor for me, and he got me through it. And then from then on, I was more aware of mental health. It was real to me then. And I realised how many people are suffering in the armed forces. So I did everything I could to start trying to help other people. And it helps me by helping other people. I don't know what you're going through in this room. I'm not going to ask you if there is anyone suffering. But I just don't want you to make that mistake. I realised that people do things wrong in life. No one's perfect. Everybody makes mistakes. Some are big, some are small. Sometimes you think there's no way out, and suicide is a way of getting out of it, and it's absolutely not. That's the biggest mistake you can make. I was saved for some reason that day, and some people aren't that lucky. I've lost a few friends through suicide. So, like, if you ever end up in my position, just have faith in the system with the doctors, and they'll get you through it. It's not quick, it's not easy, and you've just got to be determined to get through it for whatever reason, family, yourself, whatever. But I started to realize I need to be a bit more selfish. Well, not selfish, but it might come across selfish. I need to be a bit more selfish and think about me. What's going wrong in my life? What's hindering me getting better? And it was stupid things like, I bet everyone can relate to it. You put yourself in situations that you don't want to be in. So, say you want go into a party. You don't always feel like you want to go to a party. You might not like somebody there, but you do it because you want to be social, you want to fit in, and things like that. But you don't really enjoy the night. So I started to realize, well, okay, if I don't want to go out, I don't want to see that person, don't want to interact with them, I'm going to cut them off. And I'm going to get rid of all the negativity on the sides. I need to focus on me getting better and get rid of any negativity. And that's how I got myself better, by ditching all that excess noise and things around me. They're what were holding me back. So the people that were close to me, I didn't need 1 million friends. I'd rather have 5 real friends than 50 fake friends. So I just got rid of loads of people, and anything negative, I just walked away from it. Started trying to find the positives in negative situations. Switched everything round onto its head, always trying my best to look at a situation like a completely different way. There's got to be a good in every bad situation. And that's what I do. I just find weird and wonderful ways. So, for instance, the Marines and Special Forces put a lot of time into me getting better. I became a poster boy for helping them out. and helping other people who were suffering like me, but they didn't want to go to a doctor. They just wanted to talk to somebody that they could relate to. So I did everything I could, but then out of nowhere, I got told I was going to a med board, and I got told it was just going to be a tick in the box because of your medication. So I turned up at 9 o'clock in the morning, thinking I'll be back at work by 11, and by 9:30 I was told that's your career done, 21 years just over. And I think because of building myself up and like everything I'd been through, nothing could get worse than what I'd gone through. So I was able to like manage it, and I was like, okay, well, what's the good in this like shit sandwich? I phoned my girlfriend and I said, yeah, I've just had a med board and they've kicked me out the Marines. And she was like, are you joking? I went, no. And she was like, oh my God, how do you feel? I went, well, it's not that bad. I can grow my hair now and I can grow a beard. I've always wanted to grow a beard. So she was like, are you kidding? I went, no, you know, there's the light. So I was like, I'm growing a beard. I'm not going to let this get me down. And as you can see, I grew my hair, I grew a beard, and I love it. And I know that my Sergeant Major would go absolutely nuts if he could see me now, but hey, I don't need to worry about that no more. So I do try to find light in everything, but I'm so aware now of how big mental health is, and we might be warriors, and like we're all trained to be on a battlefield and things, but it can affect anybody at any time. And like whereas sometimes it used to be seen as a weakness, you know, it's not a weakness at all. It's just you're having a really bad time, and with the forces, they're really good at looking after each other. And dark humour, we don't really have it in Civvy Street, but the dark humour between forces and things is unbelievable, and it does help you get through stuff. So, you know, if you notice these things within your comrades, friends or whatever, you know, just ask them how they are and just see if you can help them in any other way to get through it. Don't try and go it alone, but you can get through it. Just don't ever make the mistake I made. I was so lucky, and I can't understand how I was that lucky. But I was not meant to go that day. I do believe everything happens for a reason, and when it's your time, and you can't force it. So, yeah, now I've gone strength to strength, and I'm outside, which is really weird because it's a whole different world out there. But there's so many charities and everything, like, to help you. So don't ever be afraid to ask. There's no shame in it at all. I'm stood up here in front of all of yous. I don't care what yous look at me like. I just want you, even if I just reach one of yous, to realise that there's no shame in it. If you need somebody to talk to, just talk to them. Don't try and battle it out alone like I did. It's impossible. But yeah, there is so many people there ready to help you. And I just wish you all like the very best in your futures and that. And yeah, before I go, I just want to try something. So if you could be anybody, just take 5 seconds. If you could be anybody in the world, like just have a think to yourself, who would you be? I'm going to ask some of you. That girl looking at me right now. Who would you be? Say again? Jennifer Lopez. Okay, good choice. Sarah, who would you be?
Bit arrogant, I'd be myself.
Brilliant. That's exactly what I wanted to hear. So everybody usually would say they want to be somebody else. You want to be Jennifer Lopez. Someone might want to be Ed Sheeran. I don't know. But it's usually because they look at people's lives and they think they've got it made, they've got all the money in the world, they've got no problems at all. But we're all humans, and we all suffer behind closed doors. You know, like, look at Robin Williams, one of the best comedians ever in the planet, brought happiness to everyone, but suffered with severe depression in the background, and he took his own life. He was a millionaire, he had everything that other people want in life, but it wasn't enough because he didn't have his mental health. So it shows how important mental health is. You can have all the worldly assets, but if you haven't got your mental health, then you're not rich at all, and you can't enjoy life. Tyson Fury right now, you know, a heavyweight champion of the world, big guy. He openly talks about his mental health, his depression and that, but he's got everything that most people want, the money, the fame and stuff. But, you know, at least there's people like that out there now, like, making it aware. There's no shame in it. Doesn't matter if you're heavyweight champion of the world. But, like you said, sir, you'd be yourself. Why don't we just be ourselves? You know, Ed Sheeran's himself, Jennifer Lopez is herself. You know, like, she'll have her own problems, but you just get on with it. Be the master of your own destiny. And, you know, if you want to be great, go be great. Okay, you just can do it. But yeah, just be yourself. Don't try to be anybody else. And just go in the direction you just want to go. Okay? Well, thank you for your time. Like I said, I wish you all the very best. Okay, thank you.
Well, how inspiring was that? It's certainly touched bits of me, and I can identify with you, Danny. This former Chief Petty Officer grew his hair as soon as he could as well. I'm really pleased that Danny was no good at suicide. I am so grateful for that. The Dannys of this world who are so brave to stand up here and speak so openly about their journeys. We need Dannys. The Dannys of this world are so, so important. That's a powerful message we've had from him today. Now, he's been brilliant as well and finished on time. So there is time for a couple of questions if anyone's got anything they want to ask Danny. So we can take a couple of questions from the floor if anyone has anything they'd like to ask. And Pip's just coming for the mic.
Sorry, just before anybody asks a question, I am so openly honest. There's no taboo. You just can ask me the most weirdest and wonderful thing. You're not going to upset me. I would rather be honest with you if it's going to help in any sort of way. So,
Red or blue, Danny?
Whoever's winning.
I have long hair and a beard.
Yeah.
I went down part of the road that you went down. To me, the most important thing was to know that I'm worth it. Yeah, because part of my problem was that I had no self-worth. I thought I was, to use vernacular, total shit. Well, I'm not. I'm worth it.
Yeah.
And people in your situation, perhaps slightly in my situation, the sooner they realise that, the better they get towards realising that, the greater they can be helped, if you like. Yeah.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that. With social media and the stress putting on people these days, it's easy to judge yourself against other people and be like, I'm not as good as that person, and it brings you down and things, but everybody is absolutely worth it, and everybody brings something to the party. So yeah, thanks for sharing that. So.
Danny, that was quite awe-inspiring, and I think that touched a lot of people. It certainly touched me. The Danny now, what bit of advice would you give the Danny running around in shorts around the streets of Liverpool, age 10?
Wow. Follow your dream. Like I said, my dream was always to be a soldier. And I didn't have a fallback plan. So I followed my dream, and I'd still give that advice. If you want to be a soldier, go be a soldier. You want to be an astronaut, go be an astronaut. But don't be afraid to ask for help. Like, yeah, I'd still be me. I'm not the same person I was before I went through this. I'm not as wild as I was. I still deal with things on a daily basis. I just manage them a little bit better. But I'd give myself advice to, you know, look for the warning signs and, you know, help people and help myself. So yeah, that's probably what I'd say to myself. But I'd still definitely be a soldier. Yeah. Anybody else? Whoever you want.
What would you say has been your best coping mechanism that you've learned?
Recognising my triggers. Yeah, like once I realised what would send me spiralling, I tried to not put myself in that situation. Don't turn to drink, because that just makes things worse. I now choose my environment. I choose the people around me. That is probably the biggest medicine. Knowing my triggers and making sure I'm not putting myself in situations and environments that are not going to help me. And it is hard, like, because you do have to ditch people. You have to be honest to yourself. You've got to get yourself through it, and some people are not there to support you, just to bring you down. And you know your real friends and real allies. Stick with them. So yeah, knowing my triggers and being in the right environment and people.
One more question for the gentleman behind.
We're talking about the outcomes of your service, but looking back, how well do you think you were prepared mentally for the exposure you'd suffer on tours?
Okay, so I did have this in my notes, I didn't get to touch on it. The training we went through, I can't knock it. We were trained for war. I thought we were trained for every scenario, but what triggered my PTSD was something that we hadn't trained for. I won't go into depth, but I'll tell you briefly that we're trained to go out there and do bad things to bad people. We're trained to deal with casualties on the battlefield, stuff like that. I felt I got the training. I went out there confident, but I was not ready for the rape. I witnessed a lot of rapes, and I wanted to help, and I couldn't. And that was something we wasn't trained for. It was outside of the norm, and I didn't cope well with that. That really broke me inside. But besides the stuff you can't really count on, like, training was spot on, and I was prepared, and I was confident in the guy next to me to look after me, and I would look after them. So yeah, I felt I was prepared. But, yeah.
Right, so we're going to have to close it there. Danny will be back as part of the panel this afternoon, so if you've got any questions to ask, hold them for then, and Danny, I'm sure, will be pleased to answer them later on. So could we, just once again, for Danny. Yes.